Two young women stepped into a luxurious car dealership on Rodeo Drive, wearing casual jeans and plain white tops. As they admired a stunning red Ferrari and asked a few questions, two wealthy young men dressed in designer suits looked them up and down with disdainful smirks. One of them laughed mockingly, saying, "I think you two are definitely in the wrong place. These cars start at $900,000. Maybe try something more in your price range." Their laughter echoed through the showroom, causing staff and customers to glance over with amusement. Embarrassed and hurt, the two women quietly exited. A short time later, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Cullinan pulled up directly in front of the dealership. The rear door opened, revealing the same two women, now accompanied by their father. Hollywood icon Sylvester Stallone, impeccably dressed in a custom-tailored suit. The wealthy young men stared in shock, completely unprepared for what was about to unfold. It was a normal day. The golden California sunlight poured generously over Rodeo Drive, bathing Beverly Hills in warmth and elegance. This iconic street, famed for its luxurious boutiques and pristine sidewalks lined with towering palm trees, was bustling with a blend of curious tourists and affluent locals. Amid the rows of designer storefronts stood Prestige Motors, one of Beverly Hills' premier luxury dealerships, known for displaying the most breathtaking collection of exotic vehicles, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces, and Bentleys. The dealership was a glittering jewel, attracting admirers who dreamed of power, speed, and elegance. It was on this seemingly ordinary summer afternoon that two young women, Sophia and Sistine, approached the dealership entrance, their eyes wide with anticipation. Both sisters were modestly dressed in jeans, simple white tops, and comfortable sneakers, their appearance casual yet graceful. Sophia, at 24, radiated quiet confidence, her blonde hair gently catching the sunlight. Sistine, the younger at 21, held on to her sister's arm, smiling gently as they approached the glass entrance. They exchanged a brief, excited glance before stepping inside the showroom, feeling instantly the embrace of cool air conditioning and catching the faint scent of polished leather. Inside, the dealership was alive with subdued chatter and occasional laughter, the murmurs of wealthy clientele mingling with the gentle hum of smooth jazz drifting through concealed speakers. Shiny marble floors mirrored the gleaming perfection of the luxury automobiles, each vehicle seemingly more stunning than the last. The sisters immediately gravitated toward the vehicles, Sophia focusing her gaze on a gleaming cherry-red Ferrari 812 Superfast, while Sistine was drawn to a midnight black Lamborghini Aventador. Their quiet admiration was abruptly interrupted by loud laughter coming from the opposite end of the showroom. Bryce Matthews and Tyler Griffin, two young men in their late 20s, dressed impeccably in tailored Armani suits and expensive Italian loafers, stood near a gleaming white Rolls-Royce Ghost. Sons of wealthy Malibu real estate moguls, the pair exuded arrogance and privilege, their confidence enhanced by the Rolex watches on their wrists and the cocky swagger in their step. Bryce spotted Sophia and Sistine from across the showroom, his eyes immediately narrowing as he assessed their casual appearance. A smug smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth as he elbowed Tyler, nodding in the sisters' direction. The two men sauntered over, their arrogance palpable, their footsteps echoing softly against the polished marble. "Hey, ladies," Bryce began, voice dripping with patronizing sarcasm. "I think you might have wandered into the wrong place. the thrift stores down the street. Tyler chuckled loudly, eagerly awaiting the reaction from the two young women. Sophia stiffened slightly, turning calmly toward Bryce. She maintained her composure, speaking softly yet firmly. "We're just looking around. No need to be rude." Sistine stayed close to her sister, visibly uncomfortable with the confrontation. Bryce laughed dismissively, stepping closer with an exaggerated air of superiority. "Looking?" he mocked. "Trust me, ladies, looking is all you'll ever do here. These cars cost more than your entire neighborhood combined." Tyler grinned, emboldened by his friend's boldness. "Maybe you should stick to places where your minimum wage jobs can afford something, like a bus pass." He and Bryce burst into laughter again, attracting curious but silent stares from nearby customers and sales associates, who watched the scene unfold without intervening. Sophia felt heat rise to her cheeks, embarrassment and anger battling for dominance within her. Sistine clung tighter to her sister's arm, hurt and confusion clouding her face. Bryce, noticing their discomfort, leaned even closer, invading Sophia's personal space with a sinister smile. "Tell you what, why don't you girls run along before you embarrass yourselves any further?" Sophia, determined to keep her dignity intact, guided Sistine gently away from the escalating scene, avoiding eye contact with the judgmental gaze of onlookers. They made their way to the showroom doors, humiliation gnawing painfully inside them. The soft sound of laughter echoed mockingly behind them as Bryce and Tyler triumphantly enjoyed their apparent victory. Stepping outside, Sophia and Sistine felt the bright sunlight momentarily blinding, contrasting sharply with the bitter emotions now swirling within them. Sistine fought back tears, her voice trembling as she finally spoke. "Why did they have to do that, Sophia?" "We didn't do anything wrong." Sophia drew a deep breath, her own emotions tightly held in check. "Sometimes people confuse wealth with worth. But don't worry, they don't define who we are." Across the street, observing the entire exchange from behind tinted sunglasses, while leaning against his black Mercedes-Benz G-Class, stood a figure whose presence exuded quiet intensity and respect. Sylvester Stallone watched the scene unfold with a deepening frown, his jaw tightening as he saw his daughters visibly shaken. Seeing Sophia comfort Sistine triggered the protective instinct deeply ingrained within him. Stallone crossed the street quickly, approaching his daughters with a concerned, gentle expression. The sisters looked up, startled, but relieved to see their father. "Are you two all right?" he asked gently, placing a comforting hand on each daughter's shoulder. Sophia managed a weak smile, but Sistine spoke first, her voice slightly choked. "Two guys inside humiliated us. They treated us like we were nothing, Dad." Stallone's face darkened momentarily, eyes narrowing as he glanced sharply toward the dealership. "Did they hurt you?" he asked, voice steady but filled with quiet intensity. Sophia quickly shook her head, reassuring him. "Not physically, but they embarrassed us and made fun of us for being here." Sylvester Stallone paused briefly, processing what his daughters had just experienced. After a moment, he spoke calmly, yet there was a steel resolve in his tone. "You two wait here. I need to have a conversation with those young men about respect." Without another word, he returned briefly to his Mercedes, picked up his phone, made a quick call, and then stood by as his driver swiftly pulled up in a sleek black Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Stallone stepped into the vehicle, silently signaling the driver toward the dealership entrance. Inside Prestige Motors, Bryce and Tyler had resumed their casual banter, loudly recounting their encounter with Sophia and Sistine, oblivious to the shifting atmosphere in the showroom. Suddenly, a noticeable hush fell over everyone inside as they turned toward the glass entrance. A stunning Rolls-Royce Cullinan glided gracefully to a stop just outside the entrance, catching everyone's immediate attention. A well-dressed chauffeur opened the rear passenger door, and Sylvester Stallone emerged, radiating authority and unmistakable presence. Recognition quickly rippled through the dealership as whispers turned to murmurs of astonishment. Bryce and Tyler exchanged uneasy glances as Stallone walked purposefully toward them, his footsteps confident yet unhurried, eyes sharp and fixed squarely on them. As Stallone reached the two young men, he spoke calmly but directly, his voice measured, resonating clearly through the showroom. "I hear you boys had some fun humiliating my daughters. Care to explain yourselves?" Bryce, visibly startled, stammered a weak response. Tyler foolishly squared his shoulders, attempting to mask fear with bravado. "We didn't know they were your daughters. Besides, it was harmless fun." Stallone's expression hardened slightly, eyes narrowing. "There's nothing harmless about disrespecting anyone, let alone two young women." Tyler, still defiant, opened his mouth to reply, but Stallone raised his hand, silencing him instantly. "You have two options right now. Apologize sincerely, or face the consequences." The showroom was silent, tension palpable, as Bryce and Tyler realized this was no ordinary encounter. They were standing before a man who wouldn't tolerate disrespect, a man determined to defend the honor of those he loved most. Sylvester Stallone stepped gracefully out of the gleaming Rolls-Royce Cullinan, adjusting the sleeves of his finely tailored suit with practiced ease. The quiet hum of Beverly Hills traffic formed a gentle backdrop, but inside the dealership, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Bryce Matthews and Tyler Griffin, the two wealthy young men who had moments before mocked Sophia and Sistine, froze in place, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. The showroom fell into an anxious silence as all eyes turned toward the legendary actor. Stallone, his demeanor composed yet unmistakably commanding, gently placed a comforting hand on each daughter's shoulder. Sophia and Sistine stood by his side, their dignity restored, feeling safe and reassured by their father's presence. Bryce nervously straightened his jacket, attempting to mask his embarrassment with a facade of bravado. Tyler, visibly flustered, cleared his throat awkwardly and whispered something inaudible to Bryce. Stallone slowly approached the two young men, his footsteps firm, yet measured against the polished marble floor, eyes fixed unwaveringly upon them. His gaze alone was enough to communicate his quiet authority, filling Bryce and Tyler with sudden apprehension. Stallone spoke calmly but deliberately, his deep voice resonating clearly through the showroom. "Gentlemen, perhaps you'd like to explain to me and my daughters why you found it acceptable to humiliate them for simply being interested in your cars." Bryce attempted a nervous smile, quickly realizing the gravity of his mistake. "Mr. Stallone, we didn't realize they were your daughters. We were just joking around. It wasn't personal." Tyler nodded quickly, adding hastily, "Yes, sir. It was just a misunderstanding. We meant no harm." Stallone paused, considering their words carefully before responding. His expression was unreadable, but the steady intensity of his gaze made it clear he was far from satisfied. "Gentlemen," he began again quietly, "respect is something every person deserves, regardless of who they are, how they dress, or whom they know. The fact that these women are my daughters is irrelevant. Your actions displayed a lack of basic decency, and that's the problem." The silence deepened in the dealership, staff members and other customers listening closely to every word. Sophia and Sistine stood quietly beside their father, watching as he delivered a lesson they hoped the young men would not soon forget. Bryce, struggling to maintain composure, shifted uncomfortably under Stallone's penetrating gaze. Tyler, feeling increasingly anxious, began to speak again, his voice softer and genuinely apologetic this time. "You're right, Mr. Stallone. We were wrong to treat your daughters, or anyone, like that. We're sorry." Bryce quickly echoed the sentiment, visibly shaken, sincerity now evident in his voice. Stallone nodded slowly, acknowledging their apologies, but still measuring their sincerity. Turning briefly toward his daughters, he gently addressed them. "Sophia, Sistine, do you accept these young men's apologies?" Sophia glanced at Sistine, their silent communication clear. Sophia then calmly replied, "We appreciate your apology, but perhaps you should think carefully about how you treat others, not just us in the future." Sistine, gaining confidence from her sister's strength and her father's support, added softly but firmly, "Everyone deserves respect." Bryce and Tyler, humbled by this gentle yet powerful reprimand, both nodded sheepishly, expressing genuine remorse. At this moment, the dealership manager, an older man named Richard Collins, approached cautiously from behind the group. Collins, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, spoke softly yet authoritatively, addressing Stallone directly. "Mr. Stallone, I am deeply embarrassed by this incident. This behavior is unacceptable here at Prestige Motors, and I sincerely apologize to you and your daughters." Stallone turned calmly to face Collins, nodding politely, recognizing his sincerity. "Thank you," Stallone replied evenly. "But the real apology belongs to Sophia and Sistine. This wasn't just disrespectful. It was unacceptable behavior in any business." Richard Collins quickly faced the two young women, his voice firm and respectful. "On behalf of Prestige Motors, please accept my deepest apologies for the mistreatment you experienced here today. It does not reflect our values, and I promise that necessary actions will be taken." Sophia and Sistine both graciously accepted the manager's apology, recognizing that he was genuinely troubled by the incident. Collins then turned toward Bryce and Tyler, speaking more sternly now. "Gentlemen, your behavior was disgraceful and utterly against everything we stand for. As of today, you are no longer welcome at Prestige Motors. Consider this a serious lesson in humility and respect." Bryce and Tyler, their faces flushed with embarrassment and humiliation, quietly acknowledged Collins' words. They understood the gravity of their actions, knowing they had just faced consequences that would extend far beyond today. Stallone, satisfied with the accountability shown by the dealership, gently guided his daughters toward the magnificent Ferrari they had admired earlier. He signaled Collins, and the manager promptly approached, attentive and eager to assist. Stallone spoke calmly, but with a gentle authority. "Richard, my daughters were particularly taken with this Ferrari. I'd like you to arrange the paperwork. We're going to purchase this car, fully customized with every option Sophia and Sistine desire." Richard Collins' eyes widened in surprise and delight, quickly nodding and signaling a sales associate to gather the necessary forms. Stallone then turned warmly toward his daughters, his voice softening as he smiled at them. "Girls, go ahead. Tell Mr. Collins exactly what you want. Sophia and Sistine, their eyes brightening with excitement and gratitude, enthusiastically discussed the options with Collins, who treated them with utmost respect and genuine warmth. Bryce and Tyler watched silently from afar, forced to witness firsthand the stark contrast between their earlier cruelty and the sincere kindness and humility now on display. Once the purchase details were finalized, Stallone quietly approached Bryce and Tyler once more, his tone still measured, yet noticeably gentler. "Boys," he said, addressing them directly and firmly, "remember that true class isn't defined by how much money you have, the clothes you wear, or the cars you drive. True class is shown in how you treat others, especially those you believe have nothing to offer you in return." The two young men nodded solemnly, deeply affected by his words. With the situation resolved and lessons firmly imparted, Stallone guided Sophia and Sistine back outside, toward the waiting Rolls-Royce. The dealership doors opened gently, and the afternoon sunlight washed warmly over them as they stepped outside, leaving behind a dealership now humbled by a powerful lesson in dignity and respect. The trio walked side by side toward the Rolls-Royce, the powerful bond between father and daughters clear and unwavering. Sophia smiled softly, glancing affectionately at her father, gratitude evident in her gaze. Sistine, still reflective from the emotional experience, softly spoke as they approached the car. "Thank you, Dad, for standing up for us." Sylvester Stallone gently hugged both daughters close, his voice warm and reassuring. "You never have to thank me for protecting you. Always remember, no matter where life takes you, respect is something you deserve, and something you should always give freely to others." As the Rolls-Royce drove slowly away from Prestige Motors, leaving behind humbled young men and a dealership reminded of its values, Sophia and Sistine felt a renewed sense of pride, knowing their father had not only defended their dignity, but reinforced a lesson they'd carry forever. The dealership faded into the distance, its shining windows reflecting not just sunlight, but the unforgettable lesson that dignity and respect should never be compromised. As the Rolls-Royce glided smoothly away from Prestige Motors, the bustling sights and sounds of Rodeo Drive gradually faded into a comforting hum of city life. Inside the luxurious car, the air was filled with a gentle silence, reflective yet reassuring. Sylvester Stallone sat quietly, glancing thoughtfully at his two daughters, Sophia and Sistine. Sophia gazed out the window, a soft smile forming on her lips, the warmth of their father's intervention still resonating deeply within her. Sistine leaned back against the plush leather seat, allowing herself to relax fully for the first time since the incident began. After several quiet moments, Sophia finally broke the silence, her voice soft yet filled with sincere gratitude. "Dad, today could have ended so differently if you hadn't come. Thank you for always being there when we need you the most." Stallone smiled gently, his eyes filled with pride as he looked affectionately toward his daughters. "Girls, you don't ever have to thank me. It's my responsibility and my greatest honor to always protect and support you. Remember, every person deserves respect, dignity, and kindness, no matter their background or appearance." Sistine nodded thoughtfully, taking in her father's words with deep appreciation. The Rolls-Royce continued its peaceful journey along the sunny streets of Beverly Hills, the palm trees swaying gently, in rhythm to their slow progress toward home. Stallone watched the familiar landscape pass by, allowing his mind to reflect on the events of the day. He understood how fortunate his family was, but also knew how important it was for his daughters to recognize the value of humility and respect in every interaction. He turned once more toward his daughters, speaking quietly, yet with an earnest intensity that compelled their attention. I hope today taught you something important about people. Wealth, power, or social status never gives anyone the right to treat others poorly. True strength lies in compassion, humility, and the willingness to stand up for what is right. Sophia squeezed her father's hand gently, nodding earnestly, her eyes conveying deep understanding and agreement. Sistine smiled warmly, clearly moved by his heartfelt words. The remainder of the ride home passed in reflective silence, each family member contemplating the deeper meaning behind the day's unexpected events. Upon arriving at their home, nestled comfortably in the hills overlooking Los Angeles, the family stepped out into the warm California afternoon, breathing deeply of the fresh air scented subtly by nearby jasmine blossoms. Stallone guided his daughters gently into the house, the comfort of home providing a soothing balm after the earlier tensions. As they settled inside, Stallone excused himself briefly, stepping onto the balcony to make a quiet phone call. Aware that his daughters needed closure beyond what they'd already experienced, he dialed Richard Collins, the dealership manager, personally expressing gratitude for Collins' professional and respectful handling of the incident. Collins assured Stallone that the dealership would reinforce strict policies to ensure such mistreatment never occurred again, emphasizing additional training to uphold core values of respect and courtesy among all staff and customers. Stallone thanked him genuinely, appreciating Collins's sincerity and commitment. After ending the call, Stallone rejoined his daughters inside, finding them comfortably seated in the family's expansive living room, sunlight streaming gently through tall windows. Sophia smiled softly as he entered, expressing curiosity about the conversation he had just finished. Stallone quietly relayed the details of his discussion with Collins, emphasizing the importance of proactive change to prevent future incidents. Both daughters felt a deeper sense of resolution, grateful to know that their unpleasant experience could result in meaningful improvements that might spare others similar pain in the future. Later that evening, after sharing a comforting family dinner filled with easy conversation and gentle laughter, Stallone found himself reflecting once again on the day's powerful lessons. He knew the incident could have simply become another example of arrogance gone unchecked, yet he saw clearly how his decisive action had transformed it into a meaningful moment of education and growth, not only for Bryce and Tyler, but for his own daughters as well. Several days later, as promised, the Ferrari 812 Superfast arrived at their home, fully customized to the specifications Sophia and Sistine had chosen. It sat gleaming beautifully in the driveway, a stunning symbol of the family's bond and Stallone's unwavering support. Sophia and Sistine stood side by side, eyes wide with delight and appreciation, absorbing the moment with hearts full of joy and gratitude. Stallone joined them, smiling warmly as he handed them the keys, quietly reminding them of the deeper significance behind this lavish gift. Girls, always remember that true value doesn't come from possessions. It comes from character, kindness, and integrity. I'm proud of how you handled yourselves, and I hope every time you drive this car, you'll remember that the greatest luxury in life is treating people with respect. Sophia hugged her father tightly, expressing heartfelt appreciation for his continuous love and wisdom. Sistine, equally moved, quietly promised to carry his lessons forward in every aspect of her life. News of the incident at Prestige Motors gradually spread through Beverly Hills and beyond, sparking important conversations about humility, respect, and responsibility within the community. Bryce and Tyler, deeply humbled by their experience, took Stallone's words seriously, publicly expressing genuine regret for their previous arrogance. Both young men committed themselves to meaningful change, volunteering regularly at local charities and organizations dedicated to supporting disadvantaged youth, determined to truly learn from their mistakes. Richard Collins, profoundly impacted by the incident, implemented substantial changes at Prestige Motors, establishing strict standards of behavior and comprehensive training programs to ensure respectful treatment of all customers, regardless of background or appearance. The dealership's reputation grew stronger as customers experienced genuine respect and kindness in every interaction, proving Stallone's powerful message had indeed taken root. Months later, Stallone received a heartfelt letter from Bryce Matthews. In it, Bryce sincerely thanks Stallone for intervening that day, explaining how the confrontation had forced him to reevaluate his priorities and genuinely understand the pain caused by his former arrogance. Bryce described the humbling yet transformative experience of engaging with communities vastly different from his own privileged upbringing. Stallone shared Bryce's letter with Sophia and Sistine, reminding them gently, people can change. Sometimes they just need someone willing to hold them accountable and guide them toward the right path. Sophia and Sistine felt profound pride, knowing their difficult experience had contributed positively to the lives of others. Over time, the incident became more than just a personal memory. It evolved into a story shared frequently by the family, resonating deeply with friends, neighbors, and broader community members. Its powerful message encouraged honest reflection on personal behavior and values, inspiring greater empathy, humility, and respect within the local community. Ultimately, Sylvester Stallone and his daughters recognized that although the initial experience had been hurtful, it had led to something genuinely meaningful. The lessons learned by Bryce, Tyler, Prestige Motors, and even themselves reinforced the timeless truth that dignity and respect must remain the guiding principles in every interaction and relationship. For Stallone, Sophia, and Sistine, the memory of that sunny afternoon on Rodeo Drive lingered not as a painful incident of humiliation, but rather as an extraordinary moment when respect, integrity, and genuine humanity had prevailed, creating ripples of positive change felt far beyond a simple luxury dealership.